Yes, this video is about the next Marvel Magic the Gathering set. And while no, I do not believe this video to be inherently negative, it is one in which I am going to be critical, not just of the next Marvel set, but of some of the larger implications and philosophies the next Marvel set reveals to us about universes beyond, and ultimately where Magic the Gathering is headed. So, fair warning, critical discussion ahead. Last September, Spider-Man released with the Soul Stone, leading many Magic the Gathering players to wonder not just whether the other 5 stones would be coming to Magic, but more importantly, and of relevance to this video, over how many sets would the other stones be coming to Magic in? Are there really going to be 5 more Marvel sets coming to Magic the Gathering? Or will Marvel superheroes have all of the remaining Infinity Stones? Well, on May 25th, Mark Rosewater confirmed via Blogatog post that there is only one Infinity Stone in Marvel superheroes. While it is possible that an Infinity Stone could pop up in a secret lair, or maybe a supplemental product like a commander deck, this seems very unlikely. All of which seems to logically point towards one Marvel Stone per Marvel set, which means Marvel Superheroes is likely set number 2 of 6. To be clear, and editor put this on screen, all of that is of course just speculation, and it is possible that we may not complete the Infinity Gauntlet, or that an upcoming Marvel set might have 2 Infinity Gems in it. Maybe we only get 4 to 5 Marvel sets instead of 6. Maybe there's only a 3rd set after this one. Who knows? Or maybe there are 6 more Marvel sets, 1 stone per set, and then another Marvel set where we get a final Thanos battle set a la Infinity War and Endgame. Would that be 8 Marvel sets, or are we only getting 6 to 7? There's no way of knowing, but what we do know is that there are 6 Infinity Stones, and we've seen 2 of them over 2 sets, and all that has happened in less than 1 year. I do not think it is unreasonable for me to speculate that we're going to be seeing a lot more Marvel sets than just Spider-Man and Marvel superheroes, so what does that even mean? I feel that it would mean that Marvel is not just one of the many universes Magic the Gathering is traveling to beyond its own, but rather that Marvel is a recurring setting now for Magic the Gathering. That there are 1, maybe even 2 Marvel sets every year as a regular fixture of Magic the Gathering. If Marvel is essentially the main universe that we travel to beyond our own, does that kind of make this a hybrid Marvel and Magic the Gathering game now? And I wonder, is that just what Magic is, and is that okay, or is it too much? Not too much universes beyond, that's another discussion, and one I feel we've already had, but too much of the same setting, the same outside property visited again and again and again. How many Marvel sets is too many Marvel sets? Let's discuss. Since this is a critical discussion, and it's important to remember that critique can have both positive and negative connotations, I'd like to start with some positive critique of Marvel superheroes. Although the set is still being previewed as we speak, I feel confident in saying that, from a game design standpoint, it is already worlds better than both Spider-Man and Ninja Turtles. That isn't to say it is not without its problems, which I will discuss as well in a moment, but Marvel Superheroes does not have the same design mistakes that the previous 2 New York sets had, and I think it is going to be a positive pre-release experience because it's actually a proper, full Magic set. Earlier this year, I presented a video in which I was critical of small set design, which, yes, is how both Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man were designed. In that video, I discussed the problems that I felt were inherent in small set design, and made sure to emphasize that my critique was not specifically directed at Universes Beyond, and that my criticisms with small set design would remain even if the set in question was in-universe. In other words, this video was about a design issue, not a setting issue. And along those lines, with Marvel Superheroes, I am pleased to say that it is not a small set, and while there is still a lot of it to be revealed, I am genuinely happy to say that this set feels much more complex, and most importantly, better designed than Spider-Man. Obviously, I need time to look over the whole set, make a proper evaluation, but right off the bat I see cool designs like Ironheart, Clever Champion, which lets affinity decks ramp out non-affinity spells and lets you double dip for your thought casts. Fin Fan Foom is a really sweet land destruction commander. Besides doubling all of your Stone Rain effects, it can do sweet things like double cleansing Wildfire, targeting your own indestructible land, letting you ramp twice while drawing 2 cards. Secret Invasion is sort of like a blue sheltered by ghosts if you squint. That half cycle of untapped duels that check for basic lands are pretty neat. And of course there's Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I'm extremely excited about because it's probably gonna ruin CEDH. Yay! It's a joke, CEDH players, but yeah, look out. But then there is the Mind Stone. No, not Mind Stone, but the Mind Stone. The second Infinity Stone to come to Magic the Gathering. Available in regular, alternate art, and textless versions, and likely to be the most expensive card in all of Marvel Superheroes, at the very least in its alternate art versions. As evidence, the Soul Stone from Spider-Man is currently selling in its regular printing for anywhere between $80 to $100 on online marketplaces like Manapool and TCG Player. The alternate Thanos art seems extremely rare and sells for a whopping $1,700. And the textless version simply does not exist, though I see a single listing of it for, well, I don't even consider that a serious listing, right? So let's just say it doesn't exist in its textless form on any marketplace. Mechanically, in contrast to the Soul Stone, the Mind Stone is just as ubiquitous. The blink effect is just as strong, or possibly stronger, than the reanimation effect from the Soul Stone, simply because there are so many enter the battlefield triggers now in Magic, especially in Commander. What makes the Mind Stone slightly more awkward is how well the effect suits decks that want to spend mana on a mana rock, i.e. control decks. Depending on the format, the Mind Stone might not be what control decks in general are looking for. Definitely not like Tablet of Discovery that adds 2 for spells and pseudo draws you a card. And the Mind Stone does not fit as naturally in a removal heavy deck the way the Soul Stone does with its Infinity Reanimation effect. In other words, in most constructed competitive formats, the speed is so fast that this card simply isn't going to be impactful enough. To paraphrase what Rebel said to me about the Mind Stone over lunch the other day, ain't nobody got time to throw their adopted daughter into a ravine to get a gem when you're getting hit by a mutated badger mole cub for 20 on turn 3. At which point, Krim pointed out that reference is for the Soul Stone, not the Mind Stone, and then the next 30 minutes are a blur. So, looking at this card mechanically, its design is very much on par with the Soul Stone, so that means you can expect pricing to be similar and the feeling of probably should be running this in my Commander deck to be similar. Honestly, as long as all future Infinity Rocks are 2 mana and have a reasonable Infinity effect or whatever they're going to call it, they're all going to be highly desirable in Commander. Now, in terms of collectibles, I do have a problem with the fact that this really good card is going to be a really hard to get card, and thus a really, really expensive card. And while this video is about how I am not happy with Magic the Gathering turning into Marvel, another topic could easily be not wanting Magic to turn into Pokemon either, but that's a different video. No, my issue is with the former. Are we just Marvel the Gathering now? And if so, is that just something people are okay with? Again, we don't know that there's going to be 6 more Marvel sets over the next several years, but if there are, Is that too many, or is that fine? At the start of this year, we returned to the plane of Lorwyn for the first time since the set was first introduced in 2007. It took us nearly 20 years to return to Lorwyn, and now, in less than 1 year, we've been to Marvel twice. Kamigawa, too, has only been returned to a single time. The plane of Alara has never been revisited, nor have many other in-universe worlds, or, if they have been revisited, often only once. Eldraine, Ixalan, Amonkhet. What does it mean if we go to Marvel just as often, if not potentially more often, than we go to in-universe planes such as these? Now, to be fair, many of these planes were first visited back when we had blocks. So technically even Alara, which we have never returned to, had not one but 3 complete sets that stretched out over a full year. But I do still think this question is valid. To be fair, Marvel is a very popular brand after all, and the argument has been made, and I think it is an argument with a lot of validity, that this gets new players into Magic the Gathering. That's something I'm all about, and also that it's just really good business because booster packs with the Hulk on them sell really well. But is there a cost beyond just Disney's licensing fee? At what point does Marvel, or perhaps another universe with Marvel's popularity, overtake Magic the Gathering's own worlds as a selling point of this game? Are we Magic the Gathering, the card game that brings in outside properties for design and exploration of universes beyond, or are we Magic the Gathering, a game that partners with Marvel to release frequent sets featuring their characters and their worlds? I think there's a difference between the two. The idea of one Marvel set per year begins to feel less like Universes Beyond and much more like a third category. There's in-universe sets, there's Universes Beyond sets, and then there's also Marvel sets, as though Marvel is not just another Universe Beyond property, but a significant part of Magic the Gathering. Looking at how many legendary Marvel creatures now exist in Magic the Gathering because of just Spider-Man and Marvel superheroes, this is not counting any secret layers, any commander decks, or any other supplemental products, just these 2 sets. By my count, there are 163 legendary Marvel cards, and Marvel superheroes is not even fully previewed yet. Compare that to Alara, which had 3 sets, but only 15 legendary creatures. So sure, that block was released in a different era, and we've only visited Alara once. So what about planes we've visited twice or more? If we look at every Theros set ever, there are only 54 legendary creatures total. Again, we're just looking at sets and not things like Commander Precons, but still, Innistrad only has 62 legendaries. And that includes 8 total sets across 3 separate visits to the plane. You'd think Ravnica would have more, but no. 10 sets of Ravnica, 98 legendary creatures, versus 163 cards from 2 sets. The closest we can get is, surprisingly, Kamigawa, which has a total of 150 legendary creatures across the original Kamigawa block and Neon Dynasty. And so, with the release of Marvel superheroes, there are more legendary Marvel characters in Magic than any one of those Magic planes. And again, Marvel superheroes isn't even fully previewed. More legendaries are coming. And just imagine what will happen with a 3rd set, and possibly a 4th set, and possibly a 5th set, and possibly a 6th set, and so it goes, and so it goes. And while I don't want to yuck anyone's yum here, if you love Marvel, that's great. But is Marvel really this thing we should be chasing to such an extreme extent that we dismantle our own game's infrastructure just so we can have 20 versions of the Incredible Hulk? And I don't just mean that as a dig at, is Marvel even popular anymore? Yeah, obviously it's still popular. In fact, I'm sure the Marvel brand will outlive me. though I do think it's a fair question whether its current presence in the cultural zeitgeist is as strong or as fervent as it was, say, when Endgame came out 6 or 7 years ago. Again, don't get me wrong, Marvel is still big. I'm just saying that a lot of Hasbro executives might be thinking of the Marvel juggernaut from 2019 rather than today. Marvel absolutely saturates our pop culture environment. Since Iron Man came out in 2008, there have only been 2 years without an MCU release. That's over a decade and a half of constant Marvel movies. And I'm sure you're aware that it's not just movies either. We have Marvel Champions, the card game, Marvel United, Marvel Villainous, Infinite Power, Marvel Remix, Marvel Dagger, Marvel Zombies, and if you want a TCG, Weiss Schwartz has a Marvel set, or you could play Marvel Snap, the digital-only TCG. Not into Snap? There's tons of other Marvel video games. In just the last 5 years alone, we've had Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel's Midnight Suns, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Marvel Rivals, Marvel Cosmic Invasion, and there's 2 more coming out later this year. Don't forget Marvel Coca-Cola, the perfect accompaniment to the Spider-Verse Whopper, but you could also stop by McDonald's for a Marvel Happy Meal toy. Have you seen my new Iron Man waffle iron? What about my Spider-Man toaster? Marvel Crocs, Captain America Jeep, Peter Parker. How about Warby Parker? Wolverine gaming chair, Marvel Oreos, Deadpool ketchup, Fantastic Four watch, Marvel Lego. So is it really all that special that there are Marvel Magic cards now? Or more accurately, is it really special if there are going to be 5, 6, 8 Marvel sets worth of Magic cards? When you have a singular event, a singular set, we do a Universes Beyond and we do a Marvel Magic set, then you pour your all into it. You make it special. You make it memorable. But when you get 1 to 2 Marvel sets a year for half a decade, is that specialness lost? I think Final Fantasy is a great example of this, a home run set, a love letter to the franchise. And maybe we will do another Final Fantasy set years from now because it's a rich, deep world that can be returned to. But returned to singular, as in the first was a success, and so now a sequel is planned. That's more organic, that's more honest, that's more true to the way we should design sets. And Marvel fans, this is a legitimate question for you. Do you feel that doing half a dozen Marvel sets instead of one really well-designed, really polished set diminishes or perhaps dilutes this property that you love? I love Doctor Who, love it, and I liked the Doctor Who Commander decks well enough when they came out. I do think they are way too complicated for new players, and that the decks are less a cohesive design so much as a lot of really cool individual cards that can be used elsewhere, but I do think the Doctor Who Commander decks are a fantastic love letter to the show. A timepiece, if you'll allow me the expression, that encapsulates Doctor Who in this singular set of Commander decks. They were a thing that happened once. They were fantastic, and then we moved on. But if you told me today that Magic the Gathering was about to have 3 more Doctor Who sets, and they'd be full standard legal sets, each with their own giant line of Commander decks and Jumpstart and theme decks and Secret Lair tie-ins, my reaction would be, no, stop! You're going to water it down so much that we'll drown. Not just Doctor Who, but Magic. You don't need to keep doing Doctor Who set after Doctor Who set after Doctor Who set. One and done. And what if there are Magic the Gathering players who just don't like Doctor Who? They love Magic the Gathering, which is why they play Magic the Gathering, but let's say there's some players who don't care for Doctor Who at all, maybe even dislike Doctor Who. What about them? Well, I guess it means they just don't have to buy the Commander decks, and while it still affects some of the game, it doesn't affect a lot of the game because it was just Doctor Who Commander decks. They aren't standard legal, so just doing Commander decks instead of a full standard set actually makes a lot of sense. Sorry, Doctor Who is maybe not the best example for this. Star Trek. I love Star Trek. What if you absolutely hate Star Trek, though? You loathe Star Trek, and now it's coming to Magic the Gathering. Yes, it sucks that these cards are going to not only be in Standard for the million years it now takes for Standard to rotate, but that also many of them will be a part of everything from Legacy to Pauper. But at least that's just one set. It's going to come out, and in 2 weeks we'll be on to the next Magic product. But now imagine this December set wasn't Star Trek. It was instead Star Trek set number 1 of many. So what if December was just releasing Star Trek the original series, the set, and then in 2027 there's another Star Trek set, the next generation. And then in 2028 there's both a Deep Space Nine set and a Voyager set. And then after that, Star Trek Enterprise. You know, that one would probably have to be a small set, but you get the idea, and on and on. Is that really fair to the player base to say, hey, sorry, half the damn game is Star Trek now? And again, I like Star Trek, and maybe you like Marvel, but I just feel at the very least Universes Beyond should be contained to a single initial journey to a world to see how the set does, see how the player base likes it, and then evaluate if we want to return. Maybe that means we have to wait 4 to 5 years for a return, just like we often have to wait 4 to 5 years before we return to a beloved in-universe world, or longer. Maybe that is actually a good thing. Maybe that helps keep these worlds special, helps keep Magic with an internal integrity that retains players and offers the feeling of a rich tapestry of flavor, continuity, aesthetics, and dare I even say it, story. In many ways, today's video is the third, and yes, final video in a trilogy of videos I have made over the past year about the dramatic changes Universes Beyond sets have had on Magic the Gathering. And when I look at all that is happening, there are times where it feels like I should just give up and give in. I was actually going to title this video One Last Thing About Universes Beyond, and then I swear to God, I'll shut up about this forever, which is a BoJack Horseman reference, and I really wanted to do that because it's funny, and I always want to do the funny thing, but I didn't because I felt it was inviting a lot of people to hold me to this idea of, well, now you can never say anything critical of Universes Beyond ever again. And I thought that, well, I am kind of feeling exhausted making these videos, and there is an overwhelming sense of hopelessness to the whole situation, I do feel it is important to continue being open and honest about how I feel, without repeating myself ad nauseum, because of course, this trilogy was, I feel nothing for Marvel, Spider-Man specifically, but yeah, Marvel. And then also, I can't opt out because it's standard legal, a different argument. And then this one just being, are we doing too much of the same set? Trying to offer in these videos different perspectives, not just saying the same thing. And I'm not repeating these topics, or this one. I'm done with that aspect of Universes Beyond, but I'm not done with Universes Beyond because it's not done with my game. And again, I do see a lot of positives already in Marvel superheroes, and I will be doing my pre-release video guide to Marvel superheroes to help players new and old go and experience and enjoy pre-release. I love pre-release, and I want to make videos about how I love pre-release. Honestly, pre-release events are one of the biggest things that have kept me in this game. They're beautiful, beautiful things. Magic doesn't pay me to make those pre-release guide videos. I just make them because I love pre-release and I want people to share in that joy. And yeah, I will be talking about my favorite card designs from Marvel superheroes, the best cards for Commander, the best cards for Pauper, because I love Pauper and I tolerate Commander, and there are things worth celebrating even if there are things I see that need to change or improve. Again, it's a tapestry. So yes, I will still be making my positive videos about Marvel superheroes while simultaneously saying and really, really meaning that I think if we do half a dozen or so Marvel sets, that sucks. And I do also think small set designs suck. And I do also think non-magic adjacent properties like Ninja Turtles and Star Trek, which I love, should have just been commander decks. And I do think I should be able to speak up and out when I see things like that. And so I have, and I will so continue doing. And I really hope Marvel Superheroes is actually the last Marvel set for a while. I hope I get a million comments saying, hey, I thought you said it was going to be one Marvel set a year. There hasn't been another Marvel set since Superheroes. They released the other stones in Commander decks, or they didn't release them at all. I hope very much that my speculation about what is about to happen with Marvel is wrong, but I don't think that it is. And if indeed we are getting one Marvel set per stone, and possibly more, I just feel that's too much Marvel.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Oops, it's Shuffle Up and Play. Today, we're playing Oops All Commander decks. Sam, Cal, and Cosmonaut Marcus have built Oops All decks, but what have their decks oopsed into?
Gev Scaled Scorch says, whenever you cast a lizard spell, Gev deals 1 damage to target opponent. I'm just gonna X that out because we don't have any lizards. Good luck guessing my theme. So I'll give you a hint.
Loyal Inventor. It's actually Alexander Graham Bell in
Oh my god.
Let's go.
Come
I get the
on,
theme.
Marcus.
It's Oops All Magic properties.
I'm on the battle bus.
I like the humongous frown.
It's gotta be Oops All Ram.
You guys like that?
It's gotta be Oops All Ram.
Prof, this is your chance to stand on principles, sacrificing your own power by removing SpongeBob from Magic Forever. Do it.